You're listening to ThunderQuack Podcast Network.
Hello there, and welcome back to Force Perspectives. I am your host, Michael Cohen, and joining me, as always, some assembly required, Joe Hogan.
Michael, you and I have been talking for the last 20 minutes. I forgot that we were not already recording.
Well, I mean, yeah, we started and then we talked about a bunch of stuff, and then it was like none of this is usable. So I badmouthed a bunch of people that I used to work with. But that's okay. It's fine. It's fine, Joe. We're everything's fine here. We're gonna talk about action figures on this episode.
Yes.
Action
toys.
figures or
toys? Okay.
Toys.
Because I was like, I made a list and not a lot of action figures were on it.
Okay.
But...
Yeah, no, toys. I corrected myself on that one. Yeah, no, we're gonna talk about our favorite toys. This was we had a topic already picked out, and I called an audible at the last minute because on the weekend, I went down to Seattle, and I attended. I was very fortunate to get to attend the Rancho Obi-Wan fundraiser. Now, this is not something that I usually get to be a part of because it's usually in Petaluma, right? Like it's usually they actually haven't done an in-person fundraiser since 2018, I think. This is the first in-person one that they've done since then. But they brought it up to the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, the Mopop, which is a nice 2.5-3-ish hour drive from where I'm currently sitting. And I was like, is this a thing we can go do? Like, can I go down to this? Is it cool if I take Saturday and go to this? And she was kind of like, I'll see if we can get somebody to watch the girls. And I was like, oh, you want to come? Because I was just thinking like I'll just hop in the car and I'll just drive down by myself. And she was like, yeah, no, I'll come. And we did manage to find someone. So we got a nice solo parent trip. Just a little mini trip down to Seattle for the evening. Hey, this is Mike. I just wanted to jump in here in the midst of Joe and I talking about my trip down to Seattle for Rancho Obi-Wan, because I forgot to mention, we started talking about collectible stuff. You'll hear it in a second, but I forgot to mention the most important part, which is that they made this huge announcement at the event, at the fundraiser, that Steve Sansweet, Gus Lopez, Duncan Jenkins, and Lisa Stevens and Vic Wertz are teaming up with their ridiculous massive collections, and they are forming the Saga Museum of Star Wars Memorabilia, which will be a public museum dedicated to Star Wars collecting. So like toys, merch, shirts, all the stuff that you would expect to see at like Rancho Obi-Wan or in any of these other private collections. And they announced this, and they have announced basically that they're looking for funding, and they've started the process of putting this together. It's an incredible undertaking, and will be just a massive benefit to the Star Wars community, I think, to have a place to go and see all of this stuff that is dedicated to it. You can obviously see Star Wars collections in other museums. I mean, the event was held at the Pop Culture Museum in Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, and there's some Star Wars stuff in there, but mostly it's movie stuff. But this is like dedicated specifically to Star Wars memorabilia, so it's super exciting. You can head to ranchoobiwan.org/the Saga Museum and learn more. And yeah, like there's opportunities to get in on the ground floor and help fund it and that sort of thing. It's super early stages. They don't know, they haven't like picked a location yet. It's just sort of very much in the concept phase at the moment, but these people know what they're doing. That's the thing. That was the biggest takeaway for me, is that like this group of individuals are absolutely the best suited for this undertaking. So yeah, I mean, and sort of headed up by Steve Sansweet of Rancho Obi-Wan, who couldn't be a nicer guy. Just such a great person, and such a great example of fandom at its best, just sort of seeking to do good and celebrate Star Wars fandom in a positive way. And like that to me is something worth celebrating, something worth preserving. This is really, a lot of the conversation was about the legacy of these individuals. They're all kind of getting older, and so the question is like, what happens when we leave this all behind? And their solution is to not leave it in these private collections, but to have a place for the public to go to appreciate these things. And I think that's a really great really great idea. It's a really great concept, and that as Star Wars fans, we should absolutely support it. Because not only will it be a great place for us as fans to go and to appreciate this stuff and check it out, and it'll be preserved, but also I think that it will continue the legacy of organizations like Rancho Obi-Wan that do a lot of good in the community. So yeah, if you've got the ability, I would say go check it out and help out if you can, if that's something that's interesting to you. But even just to sort of keep your eyes on it, and just kind of pay attention to the news on this one, because it's very exciting. So with that, I will say, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. Wouldn't you know it, luck would have it on the way. So we stop about halfway there in Marysville. There's a 24-hour Target, and so we stop there. And when I say 24-hour Target, because that like the 24-hour ones are the ones that are stocked, right? Like those are, yeah. They're like the super center, whatever. So we stop there and we pop in, and it's like, we really just stopped to like stretch our legs, and Crystal wanted to get a Starbucks, and like the standard sort of road trip thing, right? And it's like, because we were on a pretty tight timeline to get there on time. But it was like, well, we're in a Target, and I don't get to go to Target very often because we don't have them in Canada. So I gotta check the toy section. And this one has like a dedicated, because they shut down all the Disney stores. And so like Target has like a little Disney store inside the Target toy section. And they have like, that's where they keep the Star Wars stuff. Like that's where they merchandise all the Star Wars together. And so I go over to the Star Wars stuff, and it's like most places these days, it's a pretty barren 4-foot section, right? There's sort of like one or two things hanging loose on the shelf, and some things that people obviously don't want, shelf warmers and whatnot. And Micro Galaxy Squadron has a lot of these, right? and you get used to walking up to the shelf to look and going like, yep, nobody wants Yoda's Jedi Starfighter, nobody wants Asajj Ventress's Finn fighter thing.
I actually just picked that up for Tina.
Did you? Nice.
She really wanted it. She didn't know it existed, so yeah, that was her first one.
Easy to come by.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was on. I think I even said, I feel like I talked to you about it recently. It was like half off on Amazon. It was $8 or something.
But I walk up and I'm looking through this stuff, and I sitting on the bottom of the shelf, sort of behind another one, is a single Phantom,
Mm-hmm.
which, if people are not collectors, they are not going to know this, so I will let you guys know. The Phantom was under printed. They did a smaller run than they should have. I don't know. Like, I've read a few people online talking about it, that like basically like who does them? Is it Jack Specific? I think
I
does
have
the
no
Micro
idea,
Galaxy,
honestly.
but whoever it is, like they messed up. They didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, we're gonna correct it. We're gonna do another printing of them, which they don't really do with the Micro Galaxy Squadron stuff. Like they're pretty tight on the numbering with them, because there are rare ones. They're like chase ones that you have to like hunt, right? um like there's a deco of the X-wing that comes with a Hera and Chopper figures. Those, like the little I mean, I guess they're little figures, like little micro figures that go in them, but it's like it's painted with the green, right, with Green Squadron from Star Wars Rebels, and it's like 1 in 15,000, which is like super super rare, right? Like that's super rare for a wave. They're really really hard to find. The Phantom was underprinted. They should have made more of them, but for some reason or another, not as many came off the production line as we're supposed to. They're incredibly hard to find. Incredibly hard to find. And I've kind of been like, well, I'm not even gonna look for the Ghost. I'm not gonna get the Ghost, because if I can't get the Phantom, then what's the point? And so I see this thing, and it's $13.99 American, like it's shelf price, and I grabbed it, and I was like, this is coming with me. I was like, this is very fortuitous. I'm on my way to a Rancho Obi-Wan event, and I find like a white whale of a of a toy find. So yeah, so I was like, oh my god, I can't. And I'm telling Crystal, and she's like, yep, and just very much not listening to me at all. Just like just placating me, just putting up with me, tolerating me. And so I got that, and then I got home, and it sat for a couple of days on my desk, and I didn't open it. And then I don't know, I just got the urge to open it, and so I ripped into the packaging and pulled it out, and then had like a moment where like my heart sank, because I was like, you don't have the Ghost. So if
Yeah.
you just opened this and you don't have the Ghost, and you can't find the Ghost, this is going to be a sore spot in your collection forever. And then I went on eBay and looked at how much they are in package, and these things are selling right now for like $150 to $200 American.
Ooh.
And I was like, you idiot, you absolute idiot, you better find a Ghost. So then I went on, and I immediately started searching, and I managed to find GameStop has them. And one location in Vancouver had one.
Wow.
And so I called them, I got it put on hold, and I went and grabbed it on Wednesday, and or on Tuesday. Today's Thursday, right? Yeah, on Tuesday I grabbed it, and I because it was GameStop, I took a couple of video games that no one is playing. Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, which came out forever ago, but for some reason it still has a trade-in value of like $11, which is pretty great, considering I think I probably paid like $40 or $50 for it. And then Mickey's Island of Illusion, which came out either earlier this year or like last year.
Tina and I are playing through that right now.
Yeah. It didn't I didn't vibe with it.
Really?
It didn't
That's a
work for
bummer.
me. I wanted to play it with the girls. Like that's why I got it, and it's way too hard for them, and I was like, well, I don't really
Really?
feel.
It's
Yeah.
you can put on the like infinite health or whatever.
Yeah, it still was just like it. Play video games with a 4-year-old, 4 or 5-year
Okay.
old
Fair.
sometime, especially like a platformer that requires like precision jumps and stuff.
Okay. I
Is like,
gotcha.
because the thing is that like, yeah, I can just keep going, and then like their character zips to me, but then they start crying about it.
Yeah.
because they're like
Okay.
because they're not getting to play, right? But then like so then I have to sit and I have to like wait for them, and they can't do it. So this is
Yeah.
not like a eventually they'll get there. It's like no. She's 5. She doesn't have the timing and coordination yet to do this.
Mm.
So yeah, so it was very like we tried it I think twice and it was very frustrating for me to play with them. So I just never got put back in the Switch, and so I was like, "Oh, I can get $33 for this."
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, so I think like it was like yeah, it was like $44 or something like that. And then I have like the GameStop, like the Edge.
Mm.
Crystal gets it for me every year for Christmas. She renews my Edge membership, um, which because then you get discounts, right? But you also get extra trade-in value. So I ended up paying like $50 Canadian for the Ghost, which is like it's $90 is the sticker price. So I got it for like $50, and I got the Phantom for the shelf price, and it's like I did pretty good on this. The problem now is that the Phantom 2 comes out in either December or January. I can't remember what the exact release date on it, but it comes out soon. Pre-orders are all gone on Amazon,
Mm.
so I can't pre-order it. I'll have to hunt it, but I need it because I prefer the Phantom 2 over the
Over
original
the
Phantom.
first Phantom.
The Phantom 2 is such a great design because it's the Nemoidian shuttle that they repurpose,
Yeah.
right? And I also have the distinction of, and you can go back and you can listen on Rebel Cells, the episode where they find it, because it's the oh, what's the title of that episode? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's the one where they go and I and they help the battle droids, right? Like they end up
Oh, that one was so good.
such a
Yeah.
good episode. Like they basically like help the tactical droid,
Yeah.
sort of like it's like it's an allegory for PTSD, right? Like they
Mm.
like because this tactical droid is like I'm programmed for one thing, and it's like but the war is over, right? And they like help this tactical droid like work through that.
Mm.
And I've always loved the tactical droid design, like from
Yeah,
the
they're
from the
awesome.
moment that it was introduced in Clone Wars. So then seeing it in Rebels and then like having this great thing, and it's Ezra, Kanan, and Rex, which is such a great like grouping. And it's so there's all of this like these like Clone Wars sort of like good and bad memories and that sort of thing, and Rex and Kanan working through stuff. um I love that episode, and I think it's like an episode or two before that the Phantom got destroyed, or maybe it's at the beginning of that one, but like the Phantom gets destroyed, right?
Mm.
The first one. I think it's actually maybe the one where Hera and Sabine are trapped, and some. I think they have to like blow it up. Like they basically like have to use it as a
Mm.
decoy or something like that and blow it up. And you're like, oh man, that sucks that the Phantom's gone now. I just bought that Lego set. And then you get to this next episode, and the only way for them to get off of this planet is to take this Nemoidian shuttle, and you can listen to the episode of Rebel Cells that happens in, and
Mm.
I go like, I think I either said like I'll bet you anything that like they turn that into the new Phantom, or I said something along the lines of like, wouldn't it be rad if they like modded that thing out to be the new Phantom, and like to replace the Phantom, and then like the next episode they basically start with this thing like repainted. They like chop the top of the fin off, and like they make it doesn't look like the Nemoidian shuttle anymore, right? But it like I saw it and I was like, that is the best thing ever. Like it's so rad because it's just like it epitomizes the Ghost crew, right? It's this relic from the Clone Wars, which is very much like a reference into Kanan and Hera and Rex and Ahsoka, right? Um, but it's been modified heavily. It's been repainted. It's like they've like beefed it up and stuff, so it's like it's more than meets the eye, and that's like Sabine and Ezra and Zeb, and it's like it's just like it's this thing of like I don't know, it for some reason the Phantom 2 symbolizes so much about that crew for me and like what I love about them. And so I need it. Like I have, and so now I have the Ghost and the Phantom, and I need the Phantom 2. I and I'll find it. I'll get it. I'll track it down. And that's one that now that I have the other two, I have to like I will have to pay any price. But hopefully I can find it on a shelf. But if I can't at a certain point, I will bite the bullet and I'll spend $80 on this $14 toy or whatever just to have it, because it's like, yeah, it's so important to me.
I'll keep an eye out for it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's so that's what prompted the change in topic for this episode, to talk about our favorite toys in our collection, our favorite stuff that we've owned. I Because this thing is now like at the top of my list currently, in terms of toys. There are other things in my collection that are more important, but in terms of like toys, this thing, it's on my shelf now. I had to rearrange a couple of things, and it's in a decent spot right now, but I am actually in the process of like basically reorganizing the entire collection that's out, like reorganizing everything that's on display so that it can be in a more prominent place, and so that I can put it with Kanan's lightsaber and my Gentle Giant Kanan mini bust and all that. Like, so I'm basically like reorganizing to make a Star Wars Rebels section on my main shelf, and is because of this. It's because of the Ghost. Every time I walk into my office right now, I see it, and when I see it, it just like I don't. It just makes me happy. Like it just. It's This is a thing that for people who are not collectors, and I mean, this is a Star Wars podcast. We're talking to Star Wars fans, so I think that most people listening to this are going to understand what I'm talking about. But there is just a joy in collecting that. It's more than just buying a thing that you want, right? Because there's other stuff that I get that it's like, oh, I really want this thing, like a new phone, right? Like a new iPhone, or a new computer, or you know, uh, even like video game stuff. It's like yeah, it's nice to have that. I'm happy that I have that. But when I look at it, it's not like it. Like when I look at my PlayStation 5, it's a PlayStation 5.
Mm.
Right? It does not fill me with joy. But when I look at this Ghost with the Phantom sitting on the back of it, and I know that like I've got the full crew in the front, right? Like they're all sitting in their seats, in their proper appropriate seats. There are 5 spots, and then there's a little peg to stick Chopper on so that you can sit them in there. It's so great because it lights up. um it's such an upgrade from what they did for the Falcon. Like I put it next to my Falcon, and it's like, this thing's sad compared to the Ghost, which is appropriate. But it lights up, and it's not just the Falcon lights up, but it's just the back, the vent lights up, right? The blue. And it's cool because when it goes to hyperspace, it like kind of pulses and then goes brighter and whatever. It's like the Micro Galaxy Squadron stuff is so awesome. They're such great toys. I But the Ghost, it has interior lights. So when you light it up, the gun well, like the turret on the top has a light in it that lights up, and it pulses every time it fires a blaster.
Mm.
I And obviously the engines on the back light up, and do the same thing that the Falcon does. But the thing that I love the most about this thing is that the cockpit is lit from the inside,
That's
and
pretty sick.
it's just like, it looks so cool when you've got all 6 characters. I've always got to remember to include Chopper. He'd be really mad if he heard me say that. But yeah, they're when they're all in their assigned seats, and they are assigned seats. They are assigned seats. Zeb's seat is bigger than the other seats, which is correct, right? Like if you look at Star Wars Rebels, like all 5 of the seats that are there in the cockpit are unique to the person that sits there. It's
Mm.
like they have stations, right? And it's like, and like Kanan does not fit comfortably in the co-pilot seat. You can wedge him in there if you want to, but he doesn't fit nicely into it because his seat is behind the co-pilot seat, right? Because it's like Hera is on the left, right? If you're like in the cockpit facing the front, right? Like her the pilot seat is the left, and then the co-pilot is to the right of that. There's the gunner seat in front of them, that's like the step down in front of them, which is where Ezra sits, right? But Sabine sits in the co-pilot seat, and Zeb sits behind Hera, and Kanan sits across from Zeb, like so basically like kitty corner to Hera, which is, there's storytelling in that, because Kanan and Hera are constantly like, because from the beginning of Star Wars Rebels they're together, right? Like they've basically been together since the end of A New Dawn. It's a little bit like they're not quite in the relationship yet at the end of A New Dawn, but it's like almost there. You can tell that like that's where it's going for people who haven't read A New Dawn. It's like the prequel book to Star Wars Rebels where Kanan and Hera meet. It's so good. It's one of my favorites, for obvious reasons. But there's like if you go back and you watch Star Wars Rebels in season 1, they make a concerted effort to look like they're not together constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
To the point that like when it was first airing, there was very much a question of like, are they together? Because in the book they definitely, it seemed like Kanan was definitely in love with her, because most of it's from his perspective, right? So you're like, okay, like 1,000% Kanan is head over heels for this woman, right? Like he would do anything, literally anything. He will throw himself in front of an explosion for her. I literally. But it does Hera match that, right? Like that's sort of the question in season 1. But then obviously by the end of the series it's very clear that they've been together this whole time. And you go back and you watch and you can see that it's almost like the lady doth protest too much. And that's one of those things, is that like Kanan not sitting behind her, right behind her where he can be like in contact with her, is like a very clear, like they had a conversation about this, right? No, you sit over there. Don't touch me. Don't touch me in front of the others. Basically, like, because she's so professional, right? She's like, no, I'm the leader of the team. Even though she's not Spectre 1, right? Kanan is Spectre 1, but like that's one of the other things. There are like these choices that they made in Star Wars Rebels, like that the writers made to like distance Kanan and Hera in that way to everybody else, to like the outside, right? And that was one of them, is that it's like, no, Kanan is, to everybody else, Kanan's the leader, right? Because Kanan's the Jedi, for those who know. Like, don't tell anybody, it's a secret, but Kanan's a Jedi, right? So he's the leader, he's the general, right? But everybody knows that Hera's the one in charge. Like, everybody who knows those characters knows Hera's in charge, even though I think she's Spectre too. But yeah, like there are these things just peppered throughout. So the fact that the toy actually accounts for that, and is like, well, Kanan's a little bit bigger than Sabine. Like he's a little bit taller and his legs are a little bit thicker. So he really doesn't sit comfortably in that co-pilot seat. He sits comfortably, like he snaps right into that seat behind her though. Like just perfectly. And Zeb fits perfectly in the seat behind Hera. And Sabine like slipped right into the co-pilot seat. And like when you put everybody where they're supposed to be, they just like fit perfectly, which is ridiculous at the scale that they're at because they're so small. But they paid attention, right? And there are the 4 bunks, and the bunks are correct. Again, they are correct. Like not just in the fact that there are 4 bunks and they're like, they have like designs and stuff like that, and little things inside them to let you know which one belongs to who, but like in terms of the layout of the ghost, they're in the right spots, right? Like Sabine's is in the right spot and it's full of art, and Ezra's is in the right spot and it's, he shares his bunk with Zeb, and like it's like the detail on this thing is just unparalleled for a toy at that scale and at that price. But you can tell that the people who make these are fans, right? Because all of every the only thing about the Micro Galaxy Squadron stuff that drives me up the fucking wall with this, and there's the F-bomb for the episode, getting our mature explicit tag. the only thing that drives me crazy about it is that I they don't have stands.
Yeah.
So most of them, it's not that big of a deal, right? Like
I think
X-wing
Ventress's has one though. I'm
does
pretty sure
it.
that came
It
with
probably because
one.
it
Yeah.
has to, right?
Yeah.
um, most of them have landing gear,
Yeah.
right? They have landing gear or struts or whatever, and so like it's fine, right? But the Jedi starfighters that come with the hyperspace rings,
Oh man.
you cannot display them nicely with the hyperspace ring. So I have a friend who does 3D print stuff, and I think that we're going to design a Jedi starfighter stand,
Mm.
So that we can like sell them at cons
Oh, okay, cool.
for people who collect these, because they've done the Jedi starfighter, and I'm speaking specifically about the Delta, right? The Aether Sprite, the triangle one, right? The episode 2.
Mm.
Um, so like it, yeah, they're impossible to display, and obviously I have Obi-Wan's, because of course I do. I It's the first one that I got, and I yeah, I have to like lean it against stuff or display it without the hyperspace ring, but like that's dumb. Why would I do that? So yeah, they really need stands for these things, but I also kind of understand why they don't have them. But they're I love them so much because obviously the Ghost is my number one right now. That's my favorite thing in my collection, my favorite toy in my collection. But many of my other favorites in my collection are Action Fleet, the Micro Machines Action Fleet.
Yeah.
Um, and those did have stands, and they have a
Mm.
peg hole specifically for the flying stand to display them. None of the Micro Galaxy Squadron stuff has those, so having them displayed in a stand, it's tougher because they didn't. I think maybe they wanted to go for the accuracy. They didn't want to put like a hole in the middle of the bottom of an X-wing or whatever in order
Mm.
to do that. But I don't know. There are other ways. There are other ways to get those things into a flight pose. But I haven't looked online. Maybe there are people already selling stands for them. But I yeah. Um, I love my Ghost. I love it so much. I just
Did
talked about it for like 20 minutes, so obviously
I
I love
mean,
it.
it's incredible. That's awesome. I didn't realize it had that much interior detail. Like I figured it
Yeah.
opened up and like you saw, because I don't have too many of them. I only have I have the two gunships. I have like the standard Republic gunship, and I have the the ARC Trooper Fordo one,
Yeah.
and then I have the Mando Zen one. And like I said, Tina has Ventress's ship.
Yeah.
So I don't really have too much. I don't have any experience with like the larger ones, like the AT-AT and the Falcon. So I didn't really know
Yeah.
how detailed those actually got once you open them up. But
But you do
that's
know
awesome.
you do know from the gunships that the back opens up and has a
Oh
spot
yeah,
for the bark speeder,
yeah. The
right?
detail that
So
is even in the smaller ones is
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so and that's the thing. So I have that gunship as well, the Ford, the Clone Wars Fordo one. Um it's the, for people who don't know, it's the one with the scary face on it. It's
The
like it's blue
the
with the, and
Wampa.
it's like tiger stripes, and yeah. Um I and it comes with one pilot, which is
Criminal.
tragic that it comes with one pilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it comes with Fordo and, is it Alpha? Is that the other one? Is that
No,
the
I
blue
don't think
one?
it's no because Fordo's ARC troopers aren't. None of them are Alpha. Alpha's a different character. It's just
Okay.
one of his lieutenants.
Yeah, so the blue arc
Yeah.
trooper from Clone Wars.
Hmm.
Um so it comes with those three figures, and that's great. Those are three great figures for it to come with, but it has four spots for clones in the whatever the main area, right?
Mm.
And obviously it requires two pilots. It's got two pilot seats. And the pilot I don't think is available in any other set. So like other than the gunship set. So that's what's frustrating about that, is that like there's no way for me to go get another another pilot. You can get clone troopers with the the little sets, the little speeder bike
Mhm.
sets. And so like now I'm kind of on the hunt, and I don't know if I want to start buying blind boxes, but I guess it's something to do collecting wise to buy the blind boxes. But they basically have put a bark speeder in I think almost every wave of the blind box little speeder bike sets. So like, because I want a bark speeder to go in the back of it, and I want more clone troopers to go in it. But I need another pilot. I need another pilot for it. But the
It's
Falcon.
it. Go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just gonna say it. Also, it bothers me because I'm like such a huge micro series guy.
Yeah,
It's the wrong pilot.
is it?
It's not the correct pilot.
That's funny. What is it? Is it an
It's like
episode
a
3
blue.
pilot?
It's a
Or
no. It's the correct phase 1 style, but
yeah.
in the micro series, the pilot is has like blue markings. It's one of
Oh,
like the
okay.
ARC Trooper pilots
Gotcha.
in that
Gotcha.
gunship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bummer. It's a bummer. But the Falcon that I have, because I got the Falcon like basically right when it came out, and it's such a weird set because it comes with Han, Luke, sorry, not Luke, Han, Chewie, Leia, and Obi-Wan, like
Oh,
Ben Kenobi.
yeah. Which Leia is it? Empire Strikes Back Leia?
No, it's a New Hope Leia.
Oh, so it's
And
everyone but
it's
so it's
all
like
it's all
wait
a
a
New
minute.
Hope,
Yeah. Wow. I was like, oh, it's
but
like leaving the Death Star, but Obi-Wan there.
yeah, but no
Would that work?
Luke, and but it does have Obi-Wan, and so it's like, so I currently have in the cockpit, I have Chewie and Leia in the cockpit. I as they are in the Escape from the Death Star, right?
Mm,
And I've got Han in the gunner seat, but then Obi-Wan is just sitting behind Chewie, and it's
that's
like,
funny.
and I'm like, it's Ghost Obi-Wan. He's Ghost Obi-Wan. It's not actually, it's just Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But in my brain, I'm like, it's Ghost Obi-Wan. They just don't know that he's sitting there. Because he's with them. He's the Force is with them. Ghost Obi-Wan is there. He's just not making his presence known. Um, so yeah, that's a weird one. But the thing that pisses me off about the Falcon is that I got it, and I think like a month after I got it, they announced the Galaxy's Edge one. And the Galaxy's Edge one has the square radar dish because it's the um uh it actually doesn't make sense because the Falcon in the Force Awakens has the square radar dish,
Right.
and then the dish gets broken off in at the end of The Last Jedi, but nothing at Galaxy's Edge makes any sense. When we talk about continuity stuff, because the square dish gets broken off, inside the the crystal cave or whatever
Mm.
on Crate, right? When Chewie's flying it through there, he takes out the dish, and in Rise of Skywalker, it's been replaced with the classic dish, the circle one,
Mm.
right? So theoretically, the dish that would be on it at Galaxy's Edge, and I'm pretty sure that this is the case, that the dish on the Falcon at Galaxy's Edge is the circle, right? It's the classic
Is
radar
it?
dish. Is it the square dish?
I thought it was the square. I could be
I mean,
wrong.
theoretically, I could just open up my phone and look at pictures. Um, I've never really stopped and like considered while I'm there and looked at it, but they released a version of it that is only available at Disneyland and Disney World that is it has the square dish, rectangle dish, I guess. Um, and it comes with Hondo. I think it comes with Hondo, Chewie, Hondo's droid. I can't remember the name of Hondo's droid, but his little like pirate droid. And one other character, maybe K, and not K. What's her name? The Vi Marathi. I think it comes with Vi.
Oh, okay.
Um. So yeah, like I would prefer to have that Falcon. I would really prefer to have that Falcon. Every time I'm there, I look at it. You know what? Now that I'm talking about it and saying this out loud and like feeling regret, the next time I'm at Disneyland, I'm getting it. And I'll just like, I don't know, I'll give the other Falcon to the girls or something. I don't have any pictures. I don't think I have any pictures on my phone of the Falcon. because I think all the pictures of the Falcon that we got are official picture. Like we got like the nice. I'd have to look in the other album, in the Disney Trip album. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head. Here we go. There's the Falcon. Is the dish in the dish isn't in the picture because it's the wrong angle. Is
I
that the
might have.
dish?
Let me see.
No, that's
Or
not the
we could just,
dish.
I don't know, Google it. Let's see.
Yeah, we could just Google it, but no, the
Galaxy.
angle of the picture you can't see the radar dish, but they're good pictures. I got good pictures this time. Even though my
Yeah.
hair is ridiculous from the last trip to Disneyland because I needed a
In
haircut.
this photo, it is the square dish. Okay,
Is it?
all of
Okay.
these photos, it's the rectangular dish. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I believe it. I'm not gonna come up with a conspiracy theory about the Berenstain Bears or anything.
Fruit of the Loom.
It still stands. It does not make any sense that I mean, like, listen, it's Star Wars. We can retcon and fix it a million times over. So, like, obviously, at some point after The Last Jedi, Chewie got the dish replaced with the rectangular dish again, but then probably in service to Hondo, some tourist knocked the dish off, and then they replace it with the classic, and that's what we see in Rise of Skywalker. But yeah, I need that one. But the thing about the Falcon is that now I'm sitting here going, like, if they've done this for the Ghost, they're gonna redo the Falcon. There's no way that they let it stand that, like, that's the Millennium Falcon that they've done, because it's like when they released it, it's good. It's a great Millennium Falcon, but the scale is obviously off.
Yeah.
And now, because there is a rivalry between the Ghost and the Millennium Falcon, both, you know, in the real world fandom, but also within Star Wars itself, because there is the Forces of Destiny episode that establishes that Hera and Han have a bit of a back and forth about which ship is faster. I spoilers, it's the Ghost. Yeah, but don't tell any of the don't tell the chuds, you know. They're not listening to this podcast, so we don't have to worry about it. But don't tell them, because if they find out that the girls' ship is faster than the boys' ship, they'll get really upset about it. I love it. I love within the universe the rivalry between the YT 1300 and the VCX 100, because there's a moment in Solo when Han is bluffing Lando and like, to get into the table, and he puts up his VCX, right? And it's like, Han doesn't have a ship, but the ship that it's the first thing that he goes to, because obviously Han loves the Falcon, right? It's a Corellian YT 1300 freighter, so he falls in love with it because he's from Corellia. It's a Corellian ship, although I think the VCX might be Corellian as well. But the first ship that he goes to in his head is a VCX. And that to me is so funny, because then later, when we don't see the moment that he meets Hera, or he sees the Ghost for the first time, or learns about the Ghost for the first time. But obviously there's jealousy there, right? Like, he's like looking at the VCX going, like, that's my favorite ship. It's like if somebody rolled up on me with like a Corvette, and I'd be like, man, oh, like, and they were a jerk and making fun of my car, it would sting. I'd be really upset, even like I don't have a Corvette, even though I would love to have one, but like, I love my car. But yeah, I love the that there's all these like little in universe like tidbits for people who pay attention to that stuff.
Real quick, the Galaxy's Edge Falcon micro galaxy. Were you saying you want to get it, period, or you just want to get it next time you go? Because I'm seeing it online on the Disney store. The Disney store website
I mean,
has
like,
it.
but to do it through the Disney store, then they're gonna
Okay.
charge me shipping and stuff,
Okay.
and it's like,
I wasn't sure if you were like,
no, I'll just
really trying to get it, and
no,
like,
no.
okay,
It's
I
not
wasn't
that
sure
big of a
if it
deal.
was just like, I'll pick it up when I'm there, or
Yeah,
I'm
and
really
well,
going for this.
and to my point, it's like, I think that they'll redo the Falcon. I think
Mm.
I think probably that in the next wave we'll find out that they're doing like basically a BMF, right?
Mm.
Like they did with Hasbro, because like Hasbro has done, I don't know, at this point probably about 13 different versions of the Falcon, right? And the BMF, which is like the height of Hasbro's power, because that's like right before episode 3 or right after. In any case, like that was the best time. That's the golden era
Yeah.
for Hasbro Star Wars, right? Is that episode 3 to Clone Wars stretch where we got amazing figures, and play sets and vehicles and stuff, and they did the big Millennium Falcon, which we call the BMF, and I it is the most screen accurate to scale 3 3/4 Millennium Falcon that they've ever done. The thing is a beast. It's huge. I was
Yeah.
working at Toys R Us when it came out, and it was like unbelievable. That
Did you
thing.
get it? Did you pick it up?
No. It's
Me neither, man. I really regret it.
yeah. I've never really owned a lot of the vehicles, like a
Mm.
lot of the bigger stuff. It's never really been a priority for me. But yeah, it's cool. I like it, but I don't know. The Falcon is great. I love the Falcon, and I think I've like grown to love the Falcon more in recent years than even I did before. Um, but it's far from my favorite ship in Star
Mm.
Wars. I don't know. The sequel trilogy and Solo really like went a long way to like endearing me more to the Millennium Falcon as something iconic. Um, but I've always been more of an X-wing guy. I mean, we talked about ships in the past, right? So, I yeah, like the X-wing and the Jedi Starfighter are my favorites. But if we're going with like that class of ship, like that sort of, um, I uh, like the freighter sort of size, like that, not a starfighter but not a capital ship sort of thing.
Mm.
The VCX, like the Ghost, is my favorite. And then after that, right now, it's probably the Trailblazer from Outlaws, because I really like the Trailblazer. But
I've come to really appreciate it too.
yeah, but yeah, and then the Falcon is in there for sure. It's in the running, but I don't know, man. Like the Twilight is a pretty cool ship, and like we've gotten a lot of really really great ships in that scale, in that range, over the years. And I don't know, the Falcon's great. I love the Falcon so much, but uh, having one that big, it's like the Millennium Falcon Lego set, like the $900 Lego set. It's like it's really cool. Like wow, it's super detailed. What a build. But like you have to prioritize your entire collection around that thing. Like you have to
Yeah.
have a place to display it. People like build coffee tables to put it in because it's such a beast. And that's fine. If they ever do a Jedi Starfighter like that, I'll get it. But like yeah, the Millennium Falcon's not. It doesn't mean that much to me. Now, if you told me that they were going to do the Ghost in that scale, I'd have a real hard time figuring out how I'm going to swing that one. But yeah,
But you
they
would swing that one.
probably most likely. It depends. It all depends on like the extent of it, right? Like how much detail did they go to? What figures does it come with? Like all that stuff. The thing with that one is that it's like, are you going to give me all of the pieces to build either the Phantom 1 or the Phantom 2, or can I build both of them? And yeah, and is everybody included, and which versions of everybody I mean, I already have season 1 Kanan, so it's not that big of a deal, but I don't really want season 4 Kanan. Season 4 being the Caleb Doom, Jedi Knight, terrible shaved head version. Yeah, I don't know, it all kind of depends. It would need to, but it would have to have the full Ghost crew. It would also have to include Ahsoka and Rex. I would want a couple of the other important characters in there as well. Like who's the senator? Clancy Brown's character.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then Sabine's friend. And then like here's the clincher. If you did that set and Rebels Hondo was in it, because we've never gotten a Rebels Hondo minifig. Actually, do we have any Hondo minifigs? Hondo's had a minifig. Hondo has to have had a Lego minifig at this point.
I feel like he has.
Hondo Onaka. This is just a conversation about collecting at this point now. And it's like we're not really like calling anything out specifically, but I'll let you bring something to the table in a second. Okay. But I don't know. Hondo Onaka minifigure. Are these official or are these customs? What set is he from? Yeah, Bricklink has a Hondo Onaka minifig released 2009, appears in one set. What's the set? If I click on this, does it take me to the set? Oh, Pirate Tank. Okay, yeah. Oh man, these are awful minifigures. This is a terrible set. The Obi-Wan is just awful. It's like a season 1 Clone Wars Obi-Wan. He looks absolutely terrible. Yeah, it's not a good Hondo. It's not a good Hondo at all. Like it's not even accurate. He's got like epaulets like a captain, like a old timey ship captain thing, and he's got like a bandana on, which like Hondo does not wear a bandana. Hondo has a very specific hat. And his hair, his dreadlock tendril hair that comes out the back of it. Yeah, that's a terrible minifig. It's time. Hey Lego, it's time. It's time for a new Hondo set. Yeah, and put it in the Ultimate Collector Series Ghost. This is the thing. It doesn't need to be a $900 set, guys. You can do like a $500 Ghost. It doesn't need to be like 1-to-1 like the Falcon is. Like settle down a little bit. It just needs to be nice. And I'll take it like with the creator sets and stuff, or like these Lego Dreams ones where it's like you've got all these pieces and there are multiple builds. Like the instructions come with more than one build, right? So it's like do it that way with the Phantom, where it's like I can choose which Phantom I want, because I'm gonna pick the Phantom 2, and I'm gonna put that in there, and then give me Hondo, and give me season 3 versions of everybody. Season 3 specifically. I don't know, because I think that the Sabine that we've got, I think is season 2 Sabine. Oh, it might be season 3. That's the blue hair, I think. Season 4 is the purple hair. I'd have to look at it, but I think we've gotten more than one Sabine figure. But I don't think that we've ever gotten Sabine with the helmet, or maybe one of them came with the helmet and the other one doesn't come with the helmet. But I don't think I have the one with the helmet. Yeah. Just give me more Star Wars Rebels Lego sets, please. They did a lot actually back when that happened. And so the funny thing is that one of the other main things in my collection that I love is my Lego Rebels stuff, and I have both versions of the Ghost that they've done. So
really?
Yeah, and I will buy another one if they do another one. It's one of those moments when I got the second one, because there's the one from Star Wars Rebels that they did when Rebels was on TV. And then they did one last year for Ahsoka, and it's an improvement. Like the Ahsoka one is so much nicer than the older Rebels one, because it's newer and it's just better, better build techniques and all of that sort of thing. And it comes with the Phantom. Although the Phantoms were separate sets for the other one, and so they're nicer, like the older ones, because they're bigger. Like they're more complete, I would say. But proportionately they're kind of too big for the Ghost, because the Ghost isn't big enough to accommodate them. They fit, like they sit on it, but but like they attach, but it's a little like, yeah, it's too big. But the newer one, the Ahsoka one, is a really, really nice build. It's got really great details on it. And it comes with Jason, and it's a great set. But yeah, I've got both of those. But if they announced another one, and I have the micro fighter one as well, if they announced another one, I would get it. If they did, I'd really love it if they did one at the scale that they just did that Millennium Falcon. They've got like the smaller Millennium Falcon that's like just a display piece, right? If they did a Ghost at that size, that'd be great. That would be awesome. I would buy that in a heartbeat. If they did everything at that scale, I would be buying it. But it's one of those things of like, I don't want to invest in getting that Millennium Falcon. It's $110 set. I don't want to invest in getting that one if they never do any more, because it's like, I hate it when that happens, when it's like, oh, this is clearly like a new series of things. And then they do like 2 and you're like, cool, that's okay, awesome, great. And then they drop it because it doesn't sell well or whatever. But yeah, I would love it if they did a whole line of those. They do the Outrider as well.
Oh God, that and the Moldy Crow. Come on, please.
Yeah, the Moldy Crow, and the Marauder. Even though I don't really like the Marauder as a design, I think it actually like is a downgrade from the standard Republic. I don't remember what we did that at one point. We like searched out what the class of that shuttle was, but that shuttle that the Marauder is modded out of. I like the regular cockpit, the regular nose on that one. But yeah, they should do Lego. Just do everything that I want to buy. Don't worry about anybody else. Just do what I want to buy.
Yes. Prioritize this man right now.
You've got a list, so I want to respect that you have a list, because I'm just riffing. you go. What's on your list?
Yeah, it's all good. So let me quickly clarify, because I have stuff from basically from the start of when I was collecting till maybe about the late 2000s, like the 2010s maybe. So I don't know if we're just talking childhood, or I mean, you just talked about the Ghost for an hour.
Yeah.
So I guess it's okay.
It is whatever you want. Like,
all right, I'm gonna go with the Anakin Skywalker FX Master Replica lightsaber. Dude, I remember I would just sit in my room with the lights off, turning that thing on and off, because it was so cool that the light traveled up and down the blade of that thing. Like right now, it's like, oh yeah, lightsabers, okay. But back then, the lightsabers we had were either, before Master Replicas came along, there was this other company that did like Obi-Wan, Luke's, and Vader's lightsaber hilts only, and they were like $1,000 each. So that was way out of my budget. And if not that, you were getting the cheap $20, $30 Hasbro ones. So when Master Replicas roll around, they did those, just the hilt replicas. But then after a couple of years, they did the FX lightsabers, which were the LED bladed lightsabers. And man, I got the Anakin Episode 3 one. It wasn't from the first wave, because there were a few waves before that, but like by the time I actually like had a job and had money, dude, it was like Episode 3 was coming out soon, so like I got it before the movie came out, and it was like actually shiny. It just wasn't like painted shiny like Hasbro stuff was. It was like actually shiny. It looked just like the movie. It was maybe like a slightly tiny bit thicker than the replica version, which I did end up getting later, like of just the hilt. But like, man, I spent so much time swinging that thing around and learning the Anakin Skywalker behind the back twirl, and like brought it to the film, oh dude, like I love that lightsaber so much. And it was the thing that opened the floodgates for me. I have so many lightsabers that I don't need. It's been it's probably been a decade. That's not true, because that's not even close to true, because in January I bought the Kanan Legacy lightsaber and Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, I don't collect them the way I used to, but I had like every single Master Replica FX lightsaber after like starting with Anakin. Um those things are so awesome. They were so awesome. I don't have a lot to say other than like at the time it was like the coolest thing ever. If I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is the closest thing we'll ever have to a real lightsaber. And like I guess it still kind of is, but still. Um I just remember appreciating how much of a step up it was from, the little. They got the job done when you were a kid, but like when you're older and you're a collector, you wanted something like a little bit more realistic feeling. And man, those things are cool. Did you have any of those before, like the more recent ones?
Yeah, I have the episode 3 Obi-Wan
Okay, cool.
Force Effects.
Mm,
Um which my friend Andrew bought for me as a wedding gift.
that's awesome.
I Yeah, when Crystal and I got married in 2010. Um so yeah, I've got that one. It is another one of like the prizes of my collection.
Mm,
And for a long time it was the only lightsaber that I had, but then we went to Galaxy's Edge and I built one at Galaxy's Edge, so I have one of those. And then most recently on our trip to Disneyland, I bought the Kanan Legacy saber as well.
yeah,
So
it's awesome.
yeah, yeah, I have the two most important sabers. I kind of regret it. When I was there in 2022, they had an Obi-Wan set that was the episode 2, episode 3, and episode 4 lightsabers in like a
Mm,
collector set, and I didn't get it. And
that's so
or maybe
expensive, though,
maybe they
man.
were sold out of them. They might have been sold out of them, or like that. Maybe they had them like, because we went to Disneyland for five of the 10 days that we were in California for Celebration, and we went like before and after Celebration, and I think maybe before Celebration they had it, and I was like, I don't know. And then after Celebration I was kind of like, oh, maybe I will. And then they didn't have it. All they had left was the Obi-Wan one that they had at the time, which was not one of the legacy sabers. It wasn't like it wasn't as nice as the legacy saber. It's like a different thing. I don't think that they're doing them anymore, but they had done like sort of like a tier down from that.
Mm,
And I remember looking at it, and it's like the problem with the Obi-Wan ones is that and it's like the Obi-Wan and Luke ones, which is like one of my favorite lightsaber designs. I love the thin neck lightsabers. um is that with the replica ones, they often have like a neck that switches out
right.
with all the official ones, so that
Mm,
it doesn't snap, right, so that
yeah.
you can actually use it for dueling. And so
I
like
really
it'll
appreciate
have
that
two.
they include that, though, because like back in the
Yeah,
day, like the FX lightsabers, you couldn't take the blade out.
yeah. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it greatly that they do it. I just don't like the look of. I just wish that they would do an Obi-Wan saber, an official Obi-Wan, and I'll pay more for it. Like that's the thing, is like because if it has to have its own dedicated blade, that's fine by me, right? I'll pay extra. If it means that it is screen accurate and it lights
Mm,
up. Now you can get unofficial ones. You can get
right.
unofficial ones that absolutely they're like dual approved. Like you can use them to fight. They have removable blades, but they have the proper thin neck, like the properly
Mm.
proportioned neck. But they're very expensive, and they're unofficial. So like there's that whole component to it. But yeah, yeah, it's a lightsabers are a weird thing. It's if I'm gonna get an unofficial one, I'm gonna get like a custom. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
get something not from the movies. Um, but at the same time, it's like if I want an Obi-Wan saber that's accurate, then that's how I have to get it. And it's yeah, I don't know.
Some of these lightsaber prices are brutal, though. Like the I have always liked, as plain Jane as it looks, I've always liked the Kiadi Mundi lightsaber hilt. Like I just think
Oh
it's just like a
yeah,
cool, sleek design. And then when Galaxy's Edge announced they were doing one, I was so excited. I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna get it!" As like boring as it is, like I really want it. And then I found out it's $325 because it comes with a cool guy box, and I'm like, I don't want that. I just want the light.
Yeah.
Just give me the lightsaber. I don't want to pay an extra $100 something, $150. Like, give me a break. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I went on a rant with my friend the other day, and I realized like this is very like probably very whiny. And back in my day, the trolley used to cost a nickel. But like the other thing that like really set me off the other day, I was thinking about was the N1 Mandalorian Hasbro 3 3/4 ship is $130. It comes with Mandalorian and Grogu and a stand for the ship. It's $130.
Yeah.
The old N1 was $30 in 1999.
Yeah.
And like I recognize cost of parts, inflation comes with more stuff, but literally $100 more. And I realize it's more detailed and it's probably cooler than the original like N1. Like I'm sure there's like a lot of little things. But like man, that's the first ship since in probably the last 20 years that I ever like saw and was like, I really, really want that. And then I saw the price tag. I was like, I'm really good. I'm fine. I can live without this $130 toy.
Yeah. Yeah. On the one hand, yes, everything has gone up. On the other hand, if you look at like cost versus what they charge, what Hasbro charges,
Mm,
it's insane. It's
yeah.
insane. And the reason why I look at that and I don't often buy Hasbro stuff anymore is because there are other people making Star Wars stuff
Mm,
at a higher quality for less money.
yeah.
So it's like, why would I buy a Black Series figure for $50, right? When I can get a SH Figure Arts
Yeah. Oh,
figure
they're
for
awesome.
70 or 80.
They're awesome.
Way more detailed, way better quality in terms of like the plastic that they're using, right?
Mm.
Like
The facial sculpt is always like
the sculpts are
perfect.
always on point. You do not have to when I buy Black Series figures, it's like, okay, here are the 5 on the shelf, which one has a decent paint job,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
the standards for Hasbro are so low.
And
And
figure arts
yeah.
comes with like different hands and sometimes like facial expressions, right?
Well, yeah, like the figure arts
Yeah.
ones come with everything you could
Yeah.
imagine, right? So, yeah, like it's one of those things where I'm just like, there's no comparison here, even. So, yeah, for me, like I don't even look at the price of Hasbro stuff these
Yeah.
days. Like I just disregard its existence entirely most of the time. Um, yeah, it's not worth it. It's very rarely worth it. I recently got, which character did I get that triggered it? I don't remember who's in there. I'd have to go look at my shelf, but Chrysanthemum. That's what it was. Is that
Mm.
Chrysanthemum? You hit me up and we're like, Chrysanthemum's on Amazon and he's on super sale. So it's like back at my birthday, and I was like, oh dang, okay, yeah, that's worth it. Like even with the American exchange and getting it shipped from the States, because it was like you couldn't buy it proper from Amazon.ca. You had to get it from .com, which
Mm.
is the American one, as opposed to the Canadian. So it's always more expensive when you do that. And I was like, even though it's more expensive, even though like even with all of that accounted for, like shipping and whatever, it's still cheaper than going and buying the figure off of the shelf, which
Right.
up here Chrysanthemum was like $50. So I think I ended up getting it for like 30 or something like that. So but once I had
Nice.
Chrysanthemum, it was like, well, I really need Boba to go with Chrysanthemum, and I've got Mando and Grogu, so I guess I also got to get Cobb. Like I got to get Cobb Vanth. But then I took a bunch of stuff and traded it in at a store, the local store called Toy Traders, and so I took a bunch of stuff in and had store credit, and when I was like, okay, I Boba was on clearance because they had like a whole bunch of them and nobody wants them, which is wild to me. It's wild to me that Boba would be a shelf warmer, but he is. Book of Boba Fett, Boba is a shelf warmer. Although he's not technically, here's the thing, he's not technically Book of Boba Fett Boba. He's post credits Mando Boba Fett. And it kind of bugs me that the figure says on it that it's Book of Boba Fett Boba, because there are some small differences in those designs, but those small differences make a big difference to me personally. So
let me tell you, I was so excited when Hasbro announced that they were going to do Mandalorian Season 2 Luke Skywalker. I was like, oh man, because honestly, this might be sacrilege. I like that costume more than I like Return of the Jedi Luke costume. And there's very, very small differences. And one of them is the little like skirt thing he has is longer, so it looks like a prequels Jedi costume almost.
Yeah.
It's like really stylized after the prequels.
Oh,
and
totally,
I really love it. And then the one they released was Return of the Jedi Luke that I noticed because the Rancor HasLab figure, the big Rancor that was not funded, one of the stretch goals was Return of the Jedi Luke would come with him. And because that didn't get funded, they were probably so far into production with Luke that they were like, oh, well, we can just take this Luke and pretend it's Mandalorian Luke and cash in on the hype. I was so deflated when I saw that.
And then he just comes with the backpack, right? Like, that's what makes him the Mando Luke, is that he comes with the backpack to put Grogu in.
No, I think that was a new sculpt, but that was his, like, Jedi training, like, gi that he's wearing. That is a different
okay.
sculpt.
You're talking about, like, from the end of Season 2. Not from...
Right.
I guess that's Book of Boba Fett.
Season 2, yeah.
Luke is what I'm talking about. Yeah,
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, when he shows up and, like, murders all the Dark Troopers.
Yeah.
That costume is slightly different, and it's, like, really, really cool. I like it so much more than I like the Return of the Jedi Luke costume. And then we got what we got. So I ended up not buying it.
Yeah. Hasbro just kind of ripping everybody off left, right, and center these days, but the thing is, though, people pay it. Like, they buy this stuff anyways. Me included. I just said that I
stopped,
figures.
man. I stopped about a year and a half ago, where I was just like, if they're not going to release stuff I'm into, I'm just done. I mean, obviously, they're when they do Ghostbusters stuff, they're crushing it with Ghostbusters. Like all of those HasLabs that they've done, and like the role play stuff, the proton pack, the wand, the trap in the PKE, that stuff is so good. Like, I'm happy to support that stuff. But like Star Wars have been so disappointed. Although I guess their role play Star Wars stuff is pretty good. I really like their helmets for the most part. Like the Rex helmet's cool, the Clone Trooper helmet's cool. I'm gonna sing their praises on Star Wars though, even though it was from 2002. Dude, the Republic gunship Hasbro ship is still one of my favorite toys that I own. It was so cool. It has like the floor part you can like swoop in, press the button, and like it just deploys the troopers that are standing in the trooper bay. It has a little spot to put like the original, like the episode 2 speeder bikes that like that deluxe set came out around the same time, so you can store that in that same like the bay area. It's got like firing stuff, dude. The Republic. I am what would have been ashamed to admit this then. Am not ashamed to admit it now. I was in high school when that came out. That's the first Star Wars toy that I ever pre-ordered on the internet. And in the weeks leading up to the release date, I would be sitting in my pre-calculus class, daydreaming about getting that toy and playing with that toy instead of paying attention to pre-calculus. And like, when that thing came, I was in, I don't know, probably sophomore, junior year. I played with that toy with all of my Clone Trooper figures. I don't even care. Like, I was so into, I was like, this is so awesome and so cool. And I would have like the Clone Troopers, and I just had like a couple of different Boba Fett figures and Jango Fett, and I would have the clones teaming up with Mandalorians and like going on missions together on the gun. Like, it was ridiculous. I loved that toy so much. But you were not big on the ships, though. You
I wasn't big on the ships, but not that scale, right? Like I would prefer to have like
action
that's why I really like the Micro Galaxy Squadron, because I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
the
they're
action
great.
fleet stuff. Like that was my thing, was those for a long time. So yeah, like I love that scale for the ships, but and the Lego. Like I'll buy Lego forever, but
Mm.
yeah, I played with the Ghost this weekend or this week, like 2 days ago when I opened it. Yeah, I flew it around. Come on, there's what are we doing here? We're Star Wars nerds.
Well,
Yeah,
you and I are in a unique position as Star Wars fans because we're also artists, and we basically never grew out of playing with those characters, right? It's literally the
yeah.
same thing.
We also get the excuse a lot of the time. Like I use the excuse constantly of like,
Reference.
well, I need this for reference.
Reference.
I need this for reference. I have to get this action figure so that I can do, I'm while we're talking, I'm sketching ND5 for October. And it's like I really wish that I had
finally. That's right.
Today's the
10th.
day.
Awesome.
I really wish that I had an ND5 figure, or at least a Battle Droid Commando figure, so that I have proper reference. Although I just found a turnaround. This looks like an official piece of art. I'm going to open this up in a new tab and take a look at this, because that's pretty handy. It's not quite as detailed as I want to get in there, but that's okay. That is constantly the excuse. Oh, I need this one for reference. I had to get it so that I can draw this character. When I bought Mando, the Black Series Mando, that was the thing. I was like, oh, I need this for reference. I draw Mando enough. And the thing is, he gets used for reference. He gets used for reference all the time. I pull him out of the shelf every year when I'm doing Inktober, because it's like, what's that guy look like again? Because yeah, I can draw him from memory for the most part, but there are some small details that it's like, let me just pop him out and take a look and make sure that I'm getting this right. But yeah,
let me ask you something.
sure.
This is a very difficult question. What would you say? I mean, it's really just what's your favorite blank, but what would you say is your favorite like wave of Star Wars figures? So, for example, like Power of the Force orange cards, or Attack of the Clones, that blue card wave, or like Revenge of the Sith with that Vader helmet with the lava on the card art. The expanded universe line and Power of the Force. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
what would you say is your favorite, like, they crushed it on every single one of these sets?
I would say probably the first wave of the green card, Power of the Force. So what's that? I think that's wave 3.
Yeah, because would Shadows of the Empire be considered 2?
Shadows is after that. Shadows is technically after the first green card wave.
No, Shadows.
Yeah, technically it is. I'm almost positive, because I was just looking at this for the keychains.
That can't be. That can't be, because Han and Carbonite and Jedi Luke came out at the same time as Shadows of the Empire orange cards.
I don't think that Shadows is considered wave 2. Because wave 2 is Luke in like the X-Wing gear.
Yeah.
And Dagobah.
Maybe Shadows is just its own thing.
I think Shadows might just be its own thing.
Okay. But I know it came out during the orange card era. It was before green for sure.
Okay. Yeah, but that's that first wave on the green card is probably my favorite.
So when I just look at like Luke and Jawas and
reissue of Boba Fett. Reissue of Han and Bespin with the Bespin jacket, right? The first Hutt Slayer Leia. She was called something different back then. But and that's also think that's around the time that Rancor came out the first time. Yeah, like there's a lot of really great stuff in that era. That's a lot of nostalgia in that era. But I would say, like, in terms of like the best that Hasbro ever did is going to be like I said, that era between Revenge and Clone Wars.
Yeah.
The mainline stuff, the not Clone Wars figures, because the Clone Wars figures were the first wave were all 5-point of articulation figures, so not the greatest. They did do more articulated ones later on down the road.
They came back with some really cool ones, like the clones in that set were really good.
Yeah,
Pre Vizsla was really good. All the Jedi that they ended up doing, because they did like most of the council.
Yeah,
those were awesome.
The later ones were really awesome. Good. But the
Embo is awesome. Oh my god, Embo is amazing.
So I guess it was the vintage line at the time. It might have been the beginning of the vintage line was when they started doing the really nicely articulated 3 3/4 figures. There are some amazing figures at that scale from that era, just like unbelievable sculpts, ridiculous articulation. A lot of the clone troopers that they did in that era were just phenomenal. Troop building was a real big part of that era. With the clones, and so yeah, like there's a lot of really good stuff in there, and there's a lot of really good vehicles in there. They did so many repaints of the Jedi Starfighter, the Eta 2 from Revenge, but my favorite one of all of those is the Vader repaint. This like the post Revenge of the Sith, like the idea, it's I don't know that it's ever officially appeared in anything, but they did the Hasbro scale, the 3 3/4 scale one. They also did a what was the die cast? It wasn't Action Fleet and it wasn't Micro Machines, because the Micro Machines line was dead at that point, so they didn't bring it back until the Force Awakens, because it died at Attack of the Clones and didn't come back until TFA. So it was something I can't remember what the line was called, but they did a series of die cast ships, not quite Micro Machines, not quite Action Fleet, like they're kind of in between. And I have a bunch of Jedi Starfighters from that. They're not Hot Wheels, because Hot Wheels also has done stuff, and the Hot Wheels ones tend to be like, the molds aren't as nice and the paint jobs are pretty awful. But it was Hasbro, and they did a whole series of these, and they did the Vader Jedi Starfighter in that scale. I have that one, and yeah, I love that repaint, and I love that conceptually, that like Anakin immediately after Revenge of the Sith didn't, like, because the TIE Advanced doesn't exist for decades, right, at that point, or at least like 15 years. So if he's going on missions, what's he going to use? And he's going to mod out and repaint his Jedi Starfighter. I love that. It looks really good in the red. So this version is like classically done. Sorry, not in the red, in the black. It's black and gray, with red windows in the cockpit, like red glass in the cockpit, which is to reflect the red lenses on Vader, which they really like. It's not that noticeable in the movie, like in the final product of the movie, it's not that noticeable, but the Revenge of the Sith Vader costume did have the red lenses, which is appropriate, because that's the original Vader costume had red lenses. By Empire, they had replaced it with the black lenses, and in Jedi they're black. But yeah, like the original Vader had red lenses in the helmet, and so the Revenge one did, and in the marketing stuff they went hard with the red lenses to make him look more evil, right? And so like the action figures sometimes even had like painted red on the eyes, which I've always whenever I do Vader, I always make the lenses red, because I just think that it, from a cartoon standpoint, from an animation standpoint, it works better if he's got red lenses. As a character design. And it killed me that in the Obi-Wan series he doesn't have the red lenses. It was such a mistake, especially because the helmet gets destroyed, right? But like, also, like, if he had red lenses in Revenge and he has them in A New Hope, then by all accounts he would have had them in that time period as well. But I I love that version of the Jedi Starfighter, because it's also got the Imperial logo on it. Like the Republic logo is replaced with the Imperial one, which is like such a slight change, but is different. Yeah, there's not a lot of, you guys know, there's not a lot of Empire stuff that I'm like, that I get excited about. I really like that. I really love the Imperial gunship that first appeared in Clone Wars, but that like I that was like repurposed as like the Imperial one. They use, it was like the Coruscant patrol gunship, right?
Yeah, we've seen it in Rebels a lot.
Yeah, but I love that design, and I love there's a handful of Imperial things that I really like, and those are a couple of them, those two ships, and then the tank trooper. Really love the tank trooper. What was the initial question that you asked me?
What your favorite like wave of figures?
Oh,
Like, what do you
yeah,
think is the
yeah.
strongest wave of
Yeah,
Hasbro
I'm
stuff?
like, I'd say it's between those two, for nostalgia reasons, that Power of the Force one, but that Revenge of the Sith era, that post Revenge of the Sith, up until like season 3 of Clone Wars.
Okay.
I think it's such strong stuff. Hasbro was really cooking, and then they started Black Series. That to me, like, that is the downfall of Hasbro. Is that, and this was to my point earlier, you were talking about the Mando's N1. They are gouging, like they are price gouging. The amount of plastic and work that goes into the Black Series figures is not significant enough to justify the jump in price. And what happened is that they jumped the price on the Black Series figures, because when Black Series came out, when they first started, they were like $25, as opposed to,
No,
like,
they were cheaper than that, because
were they cheaper than that?
they
Well, okay,
were
I'm
they were
talking
20.
Canadian prices, so
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
there's an
Gotcha.
exchange rate there. But so yeah, so for you guys, like $20, right?
Yeah.
So like 25 up here, as opposed to like a 12 to 15 for the 3 3/4 figures, right? If you were lucky, you could get them for 10 in Canada at that point in time. But then they slowly like upped the price of the Black Series to where, like, standard now in Canada is $36 is the cheapest you're going to get a Black Series for, but most of them are $39.99 to $50. If it's got more than one accessory, it's going to be a $50 figure. It's ridiculous. Or if it's Chrysanthemum and he's a little bit bigger, so he's using more plastic, oh, that's a $50 figure, you guys. It's absurd. There's nothing about that figure that justifies a $50 price tag, and Hasbro is just shooting themselves in the foot. They're selling less product at a higher price tag, and so they go like, well, there's just we can't bring the price down because there's just not demand. And it's like, there's not demand because you guys are selling your figures at a ridiculous price. And then when the Black Series stuff went up, they're like, oh, the vintage line are now $30 figures, $30 3 3/4 figures. $29.99 for a 3 3/4 figure is absolute robbery. Like,
It's gross.
That's violence, to collectors, but also to kids who want to buy Star Wars toys. And then recently, with the newest wave that they've done of 3 3/4 figures, they're trying to target them back at the younger audience. So they've got this beautiful, really great design on the packaging, this beautiful, bright, colorful packaging with these great illustrations on them. And the figures are decent. They're 5-point articulation, so like, they're not the best, but they're still like $15 or $16. And a kid is not gonna, like, their parents aren't gonna buy those figures. They're just not when you can go over to the preschooler aisle and get a Young Jedi Adventures figure for $7. Right? You go get a Spider-Man, like Spidey and his Amazing Friends figure for $7. Why would you, if you're a kid, if you're like 8 or younger, you don't, why would you shop in that aisle? Why would you shop in the action figure aisle? It's not for you anymore. It's they've targeted collectors and they've turned it into a thing of like these are now, you know, um smaller print runs because there's just not demand. And it's like, well, that's your guys' fault. You guys made that happen. But yeah, like they've really ruined the collecting market with that attitude. And I think that's why Micro Galaxy Squadron is so popular, because they're reasonably priced for what you're getting. I mean, I paid $50 for the Ghost, and I'm ecstatic that I, traded stuff in games that I wasn't playing and got it for cheaper. I would have paid $90 for it. It's worth it. It's worth the $90. It's a gigantic piece of plastic. It's got lights and sounds. It's got the little figures with it. Like it has playability. It has displayability. It is perfect for a collector. It's perfect for a kid. It's a great toy for $90. And the smaller ones for like the $15 to $20 that they are, because they're actually like sort of two of the smaller, like I think there's like 4 or 5 scales that they have in their range, from the little like blind boxed guys, the speeder bikes, right up to the bigger ships. But yeah, so much more bang for your buck than anything that Hasbro is selling uh to the main collectors. But it's like that, and the it's not Action Fleet, because that's the Micro Machines. Action Fleet. What are the other ones that are like the cartoony ones that are also geared towards kids?
Oh, the like play school.
They're not quite. They're not Play School because they are Hasbro.
No, I can't think of what they're called.
But yeah, I have a bunch of them. Like I have the whole
Yeah.
Bad Batch. I've got Mando. I've got the Obi-Wan ones that they did for the Obi-Wan series. Like that's my jam right now. Mission Fleet. Mission Fleet
Okay,
is
yeah.
is that series. Yeah, why would I buy the collector's ones when I can get the Mission Fleet ones for like half the price generally? And honestly, like they're better sculpts. They're better sculpts, and they're cartoony, so that has to be to your taste. If you want realistic looking action figures, you've really only got the two choices between Hasbro or Figuarts. And Figuarts, the thing is, like, they just don't do that many, right? It's main characters only, and stormtroopers and clone troopers, right? Like you're not gonna get random background character, or like, even I don't think that they've done Sabine from Ahsoka. I don't know that they've done Ahsoka from Ahsoka yet, right? Like the Figuarts ones, like they're fewer and farther between, but it's worth it. They're beautiful figures. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know when Hasbro is going to figure this stuff out. But the problem is that Hasbro is run by a hedge fund, right? It's no longer Hasbro. The Hasbro that did stuff in 2005 to 2010, that company doesn't exist anymore. Like that has been bought and sold and bought and sold at this point. And yeah, it's Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast owns Dungeons and Dragons. And if you're a D&D fan, then you know the way that company has been mismanaged over the last 3 years, and the gouging that's going on there. It's it is because the executives that have been put in place by a hedge fund that owns Hasbro, and it's profit at all costs, which is a very common thing right now, but is also like it's killing basically every industry. It's killing the gaming industry. It's killing toys and collecting. It's killing film and television. Like it's just, I don't know how much longer it can be sustained, and before people start to realize that like these decisions that are being made are wrong and bad, and they need to actually stop.
I am of the opinion that they already realize it, but they're just in it to get the money they can while they can.
It's all short term
Yeah.
return, right? Like it's short term gains. Yeah, it's very frustrating because it affects these things that matter to us, but that don't matter to the people who are in charge and make these decisions. So it's super frustrating, but it is what it is. I don't know. There's nothing we can do about it. That's the thing. That's my thing is like, well, you can be upset about it, but there's really nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah.
So be upset, I guess. I don't know.
I am.
Yeah. Anything else that you wanted to highlight in your
I'll do some quick ones. Hasbro AT-AT, amazing. We already talked about Action Fleet. Really the expanded universe line for me, like the first expanded universe line, because before then we were just limited to the movies, and then to see Mara Jade and Dark Empire Luke, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Kyle Katarn, like all these awesome characters.
Yeah.
That like, you know, other than Shadows of the Empire, there really wasn't anything that wasn't from the films at that point. So that always blew me away. I always really liked playing with those. The micro series figures, to see stylized Star Wars figures was really cool. That was really awesome because like that was the series that, I mean, I've spoken ad nauseum about it, but like I'm convinced that if that show did not come out, did not exist, and did not release the time that it released, I don't know that I would be an artist. I honestly don't know. So like anything that has to do with that series I love, and those figures were so cool. Even though they were not very posable, they just looked awesome and I liked having them on my shelf. And the last one for me, I don't know if you and I have ever spoken about, I know I've talked to Carl about it. The Micro Machine play sets that were like helmets or faces or heads or whatever that opened up and then like had whatever theme in there. The Stormtrooper Death Star one was my favorite one, but like I had so many of them. Vader on Cloud City, Boba Fett was Cloud City, R2 was Jabba's Palace. Like those things were so cool.
Yeah, I missed that era. That was like the Mighty Max.
Yeah,
Era of
exactly.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Polly Pocket, Mighty Max. Polly Pocket's still around, but like obviously Mighty Max is not, and those like they don't really do the Star Wars micro stuff anymore, and it's a bummer. It's a bummer because that stuff was really fun. That's one of those sort of lines that I would bring back if I had my way with things, but I don't know that kids these days would buy them, but
I read something the other day. I mean, I didn't check any sources, so I don't really know anything about numbers or whatever, but like toys in general are down. Action figure sales are down, not just like Star Wars, but like everything.
Yeah.
Because kids just like want electronics. They just want apps and iPad and you know what I mean? Like they're
okay, so this is the thing with that is that the sales are down and they don't actually know the reason why, right?
Okay.
Like they're positing that the reason why is because kids would rather have apps and stuff. The reality is, having two kids of my own that love toys and love to buy toys, they never ask for electronics. Never. Their Christmas list, never like, oh, I want an iPad, right? Like never. What they ask for are toys. They want toys. I just don't think that there's a lot that's affordable right now. I think that these companies are just gouging at every turn, and as a result, sales are down.
Sure.
Right. And like stores like Toys R Us can't sustain themselves because they have to bring in all of this physical product. But then, like the rate of purchase is lower because everything's a higher ticket. And I think that is just everything right now across the board. I think that economically, these companies have learned that they can take advantage, and so they are. And there's a breaking point to it. Like there's just it can only get pushed so far before it's before it doesn't work anymore. And I think that's kind of like where we're at right now, is that like we're on the verge of collapse with a lot of these industries. And that's why, because you've got all these companies that are just like, how much can we possibly get out of these consumers? And it has a breaking point. Like, that's the thing, and you're gonna find it. And when you find it, it's not gonna be comfortable for anybody. It's a breaking point, right? It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be violent. Like, it's gonna be disruptive to industries. But they keep ignoring it. They keep ignoring that component of it and acting like, oh, they just don't want this thing. And it's like, no, they want so many things that you're just choosing not to give them because of cost or whatever reason, because you want them to behave in a certain way and purchase in a certain way. And it's like, no, you're not actually asking consumers. Like, that's the thing. It's like they're telling you that, oh, kids just want electronics, but nobody's asking them. Nobody's talking to the kids and saying to the kids, what is it that you guys want, right? Because if you ask them, they don't want electronics. That's not what they want. They want things to play with, and they'll play with electronics. And like, I'm not saying that that's not a part of it. It is absolutely a part of it, but it's not everything. It's not like the whole problem. I think that the bigger problem is absolutely the ridiculous cost of toys these days. Like, it's so prohibitive to buy your kids toys. It's better to buy them books. It's better to buy them, honestly, it is better to buy them electronics most of the time. And that just kind of sucks.
What do you think about these toys that are integrating like apps and stuff? Because I think, is it the BB-8? Like, I know there's some Star Wars toy where when you bought it back in 2015, you bought the app, you bought the toy rather. You install the free app because you bought the toy, and in order to make it work, you have to use the app. But like, once the app stops working, now you have a toy that just doesn't work.
Are you talking about the Sphero?
Is that what it is? I don't remember. I
know
the
remote control. The remote
maybe
control.
I don't know. I never bought it, so I don't really know anything about it. But I feel like I heard something recently, like, yeah, you can't even use it anymore.
Yeah, I haven't even like looked to see if I can download the Sphero app anymore. But yeah, that you needed an app in order to operate him, and I think that the company that made Sphero is gone now. That was like a Force Awakens launch day release guy. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what you've been hearing about, is that one. But yeah, I mean, like this is the thing, is that all of those toys, whenever I buy that stuff for the girls, it's like they're great gimmicks and they have fun with it for about 15 minutes and then they're done. But the things that they go back to are like, I mean, like the thing that they play with the most in this house is Lego. Like, that's what they go back to more often than not. And and like they're and like dolls and toys, Barbies. Like, that's what they play with. So I don't know. To me, it's a very clear thing that this is about the cost of toys, and not about electronics versus. But my kids might not be typical, so I don't want to
I guess that's true.
come off as like
my
my kids are better than other kids, they don't play with electronics. They absolutely play with their iPad, they love their iPads. But if I leave them to their own devices, they will often default to just like, I don't know. This last week they were playing with their Trolls toys, which have been like sitting on the shelf for like the last probably 8-9 months, because that movie was forever ago. But then recently they just decided that that's what they wanted to play with. And yeah, I don't know. it's trying to predict what kids want is a fool's errand as far as I'm concerned. I don't think that you can predict it. You just got to kind of ride the wave when it happens. But like we were talking about before we started the episode proper, that like Cassie loves Chewbacca. Does she love Chewbacca because she loves the movies? No, she doesn't watch the Star Wars movies, but she does in fact love Chewbacca, right? So it's like, I don't know, how do you can't manufacture that, and you can't predict it, and you can't control it. Like, it is what it is. And they like what they like. So I don't know, to me it's so silly to try and it's like whenever they like Christmas time and they're like, oh, here are the toys that can't be beat for Christmas this year. And it's like, you guys decided this. No kid decided this. And then the news goes, oh, gotta get a Tickle Me Elmo, it's the most sought after toy this year. Because kids want it? No, because kids have been told by their parents that they want it.
No.
Right? Because it's hard to get. So now it's the thing. And then it's like, how many Tickle Me Elmos were in the landfill within 6 months after that Christmas? It's the whole thing of trying to predict what kids are into and that sort of thing, I think is just so backwards. I don't think that anybody really knows, even though they want to pretend that they do. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Well, did we do it? Is that an episode?
I think we did.
I think
we definitely talked about toys and collecting. We talked about toys
and collecting. Yeah. Yeah, man. I love my Ghost. I love my Rancor. I'll never get rid of my Power of the Force Rancor. He sits there, and even though, you know, he doesn't really have a place, he'll always he'll always be in my collection. I just love him so much. And then I guess the only other thing that I haven't mentioned that's like a really, really important part of my toy collection is my Disney Infinity guys, because I have the full range of those. I don't have any of the light up ones. They did a bunch of them where like the lightsabers light up. I didn't get any of those ones because they were really hard to find in Canada, but I have every figure that they released in its like standard version.
Okay.
And they're beautiful. They're amazing. They're such great designs. So
you're beautiful and amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am. So are you, I guess.
Thanks, man.
Is a nice thing to say in response.
It's fine.
I
didn't say it to get it back. It's fine.
That's it though. That's it for this episode.
That is it.
That's it for this episode. Hasbro, get your shit together.
Do better.
Do better.
We love you.
Listen. In the year 2024, we got Acolyte and we got Star Wars Outlaws, and you didn't release a Pip Droid toy, and you haven't released a Nyx toy. That's a mistake.
That's just
those
silly.
are both unforced errors on your part, Hasbro. Because if you want kids to buy Star Wars toys, they would buy a Pip Droid, an electronic talking Pip Droid, over a lightsaber any day of the week. And they would buy an interactive Furby style Nyx any day of the week.
Oh my God, I would buy one.
They would buy that shit in a heartbeat, and you fucked up. You fucked up, Hasbro. You messed up. There we go. That's it. That's it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for putting up with our nonsense and our ridiculous collecting attitudes. Yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We're getting close to Skeleton Crew, but I'm gonna tease this next month. Before we get to Skeleton Crew, and Joe, this is also a reminder to you: you need to finish The Last Jedi novelization.
The novel.
Yeah, the novelization, because we're going to talk about it, because we're gonna revisit The Last Jedi in a few weeks, in about a month. So just everybody prepare for that. Buckle up,
guys. Buckle up. I really want to change my mind. I'm not going to be difficult for the sake of being difficult. Warning now, I really don't like it. But I haven't. Here's what I did do. I read the prologue of the novel, and I really, really liked it. It does not change anything for me yet, though. But I really liked the prologue of the novel. It was really awesome, really well written, really well put together. But right now, I'm not gonna lie, I have a little bit of an attitude. Not like, ooh, I don't want to do this. I don't see myself changing my mind, but I am gonna try very hard to be open minded about
I'm gonna get you there. I'm gonna get you there.
it. I hope you do. I hope you do. I don't want to dislike anything Star Wars.
And I don't want to dislike you. So no. Awesome.
Well, that train has sailed, I think, anyway.
Yeah. That is it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for hanging out. And thank you for supporting us on Patreon if you're one of those people. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode. But in the meantime, we'll be over on patreon.com/ThunderQuack with Off the Record. Next week, we're going to talk about Midnight Mass, if that's the sort of thing that you're into. And
the show,
yeah,
the television show, not the practice.
Yeah. And then we got a Halloween candy roundup planned for the week of Halloween on Off the Record. So get ready for that. And also I will just tease that Perfect 10 Prey is coming in a couple of weeks. And Missy is on that episode. And if you've listened to any of the episodes with Missy, you know that they are some of the best episodes of Perfect 10. And Prey, the Predator prequel movie, for those who don't know.
I thought you were talking about the 2017 video game. I was like, really?
No. Yeah,
I know people like that. I'm surprised, but cool. Okay.
No, we're talking about the Predator prequel movie.
Great film. Great video game, but great film.
Yeah. If you have not watched the movie, go watch the movie. And then get ready for the Perfect 10. It's a great episode. We recorded it a couple weeks ago, and it's fantastic. So look forward to that, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Follow Force Perspectives on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ForcePOV, and join us on Discord at ThunderQuack.com/Discord. Support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/ThunderQuack to get early access to episodes, leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast service, or buy merch at store.thunderquack.com. Force Perspectives is a part of the ThunderQuack Podcast Network. God, Chewie is Cassie's favorite character, and so we watched. It's Padawan Lost, and then what's the Chewie one? I can't remember the name of that one, but this is like the two-parter, right, where she gets captured by the Trandoshans and teams up with the Jedi, the other Padawans, and then Chewie shows up, and then they fucking wreck shop, like they just massacre the Trandoshans. And when Chewie showed up, Cassie just like she lost it. She was like ecstatic. She fucking loves Chewbacca. I didn't do it. Like this is the thing, is that like with kids, it's like you cannot control them. I didn't influence this at all. She decided that she likes Chewbacca, not Wookiees, Chewbacca.
Just Chewbacca.
Show her Tarful, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Chewbacca. She fucking loves Chewbacca. I mean, she's down for what's his face, the Padawan,
Gunji.
Gunji. Yeah, she'll fuck with Gunji, but Chewbacca is her, like, not just her favorite Star Wars character. I think Chewbacca is one of her favorite things in the world.
Damn.
Like, she fucking loves Chewbacca so much. But like, a lot of Chewie's stuff is a little more intense.
Yeah.
So it's just funny to me that, like, it's like she won't watch the movies pretty much, but yeah. You know what's really funny is the introduction of Chewie in that episode. They do the same thing that they do in Solo.
Yeah, where he's this like scary creature.
He's a scary monster, and then he steps out of the shadow, and
totally
you see that it's Chewie. And yeah, it's
I remember thinking the same thing when I saw. So I was like, I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And then,
but
they
did it.
Rewatch.
They did it in Empire, and they did it in Return of the Jedi as well, right? Because they do it in Empire in the.
Do they?
They do it in Jedi for sure, but I'm pretty sure that there's a bit of a moment in Empire with when they're in the prison cells on Bespin.
Okay.
There's a moment where he's like in the shadow, and he steps out of the shadow. Okay. I think it's like when Lando comes in or something like that. Okay. But in Return of the Jedi they do it for sure, because Han gets thrown in the cell, right. And then it's like, oh no, like, is there something in here with him? And it's Chewbacca, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah. Anyways, let's talk about Star Wars for real on this Star Wars podcast. Let's do the podcast for real.